last minute video here. So I'm going to show you guys how to get your card that we play onto the game board and how to update things as we go along. So first we're going to need an image on the canvas. So you're going to go to Canvas UI, add an image. Then on the image, go ahead and add a text. Now we want our text to be centered. Notice how it's off center. So we're going to click center, center. And then you can do this as well. Anchor it, Alt Shift, click on the middle one. And then what we can do with the image is we can resize the height a little bit, make it more like an actual card, maybe 180-ish. And then you can change this source image into a UI sprite, and then it'll give it some rounded corners. Now we want to take this image and then make a prefab out of it, but not as an image necessarily. We want to rename it and then call this card prefab. And once we've done that, then let's go ahead and take it and make an image out of it. Sorry, make a prefab out of it. At that point, we don't really need this, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this to show you what's happening next. We'll go to the canvas, create an empty, and then we're going to call this, instead of game object, we're going to call this horizontal layout master. Oops. Layout master, and then this is going to hold a layout group. So you're going to type layout here and then look for the horizontal layout group, and we're going to give it some spacing of about 20 pixels. You can play around with this number and see what it does. And then for our child alignment, we'll go middle center, and we want to stretch this so that it takes the whole screen. So you're going to click on that one with Alt and Shift held. And the next thing we'll do is we'll go to our card prefabs and just select them both at the same time and make them a child of the layout master by dragging it on. Looks like I did not save the name properly, so I'm going to go back and edit that. Horizontal layout master. All right. You'll notice our cards have become a part of this group. And I even had one more card, which I didn't include. So now they're all a part of this group. And it's going to space them out based on that. If I go to my horizontal layout options, I can like increase and decrease the spacing. I keep it at 20. And then for each of these cards, what I want to do is I want to add a component which is a layout element and change it to preferred width and height. And then with the last card, same thing, layout element, preferred width and height. And for the layout master, let's see, we got middle center. How about child controls size? Let's not force to expand them. Make sure all the children are 100, 180. Let's do a minimum height of 180. Yeah, I think that would be good. We can kind of like force these to have a minimum height of 180. And a minimum width of 100. I think that's working a little bit better than preferred width. So as you can see, we've got our layout and it looks nice, and we got our 20 pixel in between. Okay, cool. So the next thing to do is delete all these. And we're going to go back into our script and we're going to edit a couple of things. So I have already tested this just to make sure that it works. So I'm going to go back and show you what I have changed, and then we'll get things going. First thing is we need a couple of game object variables. We're going to need one for the card image prefab and one for the layer master empty. We also need a string. So this string will hold the card info, for example, the value and the suit. And we should already have a game board and all of the rest of this set up. These are the three new variables here. You'll also need to add using UnityEngine.ui because we're going to be accessing some text. Text is a UI element, so you need to include this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the I'm going to just minimize a couple of these. Let's go to Edit, turn on outlining again. We don't need shuffle or deal or anything like that. We already have the play card here, but we're going to add something to it. So when we play a card, we're going to want to add it to our game board, and then in addition to that, we're going to want to actually play the card. So I've added one line here. After I update the game board, after I have my selection added to the game board, I want to do a function called show card. I haven't created this function yet, so you'll see it below. And it's a very simple function. It's very much like what we did when, you know what, forget it. We'll talk through it one by one. We're going to go ahead and instantiate a prefab. So you have to say game object, give it a name right here. This name, not too important. And then we're going to instantiate our card image prefab, which came from up above. Okay. After that, we're going to go to our prefab and we want to set its parent value. So the parent is within the transform. So you want to set the parent value to the layer master empty. Don't forget the parent is a transform, not a game object, so you do have to do .transform. Then we want to take the text that is a part of our card image prefab and we want to update it. So we're going to create a variable to access the card image prefab's text. And then we have this string that we created. We're going to give it some info. So we're going to say card info text equals card.value, because we did pass the card into this function, plus, and I was missing something actually, we're going to go ahead and include a couple of things, the word of and a couple of spaces. And then we're going to include the suit as well to string. And lastly, we have to update the text on the card. Child text.text equals card info text. That is everything that I've changed. All the rest of this is the same, so I'm still going to be using the same key as a shortcut to play the card. We'll go back into Unity and test everything out. I'm going to run into a couple of errors because I haven't assigned some variable values. So right away there's an error. Let's go to our deck manager. You'll notice there are some game objects missing. So what we need to do is go to our project, and I've created a prefabs folder. So I'm going to go in here, but otherwise you would take your prefab and drag it into the card image prefab slot. You also want to take your layout master and drag it into the layout master slot. Notice how card info text is empty. That's fine. We'll hit play. I'm going to go ahead and deal out a couple of cards and check out what we have. Size is atrocious. So what we need to do is go onto our card prefab. Oh, you know what happened? I didn't update the prefab. Let's add a component that's a layout element. Make the minimum width and height 100 and 180. And then let's try this again. If you don't update the layout element, it doesn't really work. And check it out. We got our cards. They're showing up on the game board. At some point, we're going to be array indexed is out of range. We're going to save that for the next video. Good luck and see you guys later. Remember, like the video, subscribe to my channel.